Alright, Gamer Bears, it is time for a new episode of Unused Content in Games, and today we have a sequel to the previous video, and that being Unused Content in Kirby Super Star Ultra, the remake to Kirby Super Star. So, we can start off with some bugs and glitches that were in the game, but before we truly begin, if you have at any point in time in this video you enjoy the content you see here, please consider subscribing to the channel. It's for free and you can always change your mind later on, so you don't miss out on more unused content in games. So, let us begin with some bugs in the game. Starting off with a few glitches, just a speedy do glitch over here. Either the copy or bomb ability is needed. Head to the Sky High stage in Milky Way Wishes and enter the room in the door maze where a Parasol Waddle Dee and a Parasol Waddle Doo float down. Enter the rightmost door to go into the next room. Then head straight back into the previous room by going into the same door Kirby appeared out of. Zapping/bombing the Waddle Doo, who is on the right, and making it touch the platform where the middle door is located. Will make it run around the room and increase speed, and occasionally in the opposite direction it's facing, before eventually falling through the floor. And I think I'm going to leave a link in the description below for different glitches in this game, in case any of you might be curious about that. Since I kind of wish it could be shown here, but I don't see any videos links here, so I'll provide one in the comments, or in the description. This is only present in the Japanese version, the wing dive glitch. Cancel the bomber heading use A, and then get severely hurt by an object, e.g. a Gordo, for example. Kirby shouldn't touch the ceiling or floor instantly, or the glitch won't work. You'll pass through the walls vertically. Sometimes you get up, and sometimes you go down. You can press Y to shoot feathers to extend the zip. Alright, next, the computer virus sound glitch. During that boss fight, select Samira and Helper to Hero, then get to the Great Dragon section of the computer virus battle. Wait for the Great Dragon to breathe fire, then immediately guard, reversing the flow of the flames. After the Great Dragon is done attacking, the sound effects can still be heard for another second. I never noticed that. I used to do that all the time back in elementary school when I used to play this. Or I still play it from time to time, since I just did a playthrough of it, but yeah. And I never noticed that. Interesting. Floating Knuckle Joe glitch. Go to Aquarius in Milky Way Wishes, and continue until finding a Broom Hatter with the Knuckle Joe. Past that is another pair of the duo. If the player watches the Knuckle Joe closely, it will sometimes jump on the ledge, and the game will register it as being on the ground while it's walking on air. Didn't know Knuckle Joe can just walk on air. If it was on water, now we'd be calling him Jesus. Anyway, Suplex Game Crash. The suplex ability is needed, obviously, with that name. Go to Peanut Plains and Dynablade, and reach the ledge that leads to the mid-boss battle with Chef Kawasaki. On the opposite ledge, there is a bomber, or balloon bomber. Wait until it is about to fall, then dash grab it. If Kirby falls down into the room, press A to perform the suplex attack rock drop attack. If the bomber was grabbed at exactly the right moment, it will freeze the game and cause the buttons to stop responding, though the music will continue playing. Alright, no copy from Waddle Doo. The copy ability is needed. Go to Sky High and Milky Way Wishes and advance before encountering the Parasol Waddle Dee and Waddle Doo. Copy the Waddle Doo while it's on the ground, and as soon as Kirby grabs the beam ability, go back to copy. Keep repeating, and eventually Kirby will take no ability from the Waddle Doo when he beats it. I guess because the game registers that as you having the copy ability and taking it, and that you already have the beam ability, since you're playing Milky Way Wishes when normally you shouldn't be able to get any abilities from enemies. But because you were using the copy ability from it, the game thinks that you already have the beam ability, so there's no point in taking it from them. Alright, puffs of dust in the air. Start dashing, then turn into the opposite direction. Right when the turn is made, jump in the air, and puff of dust will still be seen at Kirby's feet. And finally, the delayed defeat of Dynablade. If the final blow is dealt to Dynablade, particularly in Helper Hero, during some of her attacks, most notably her sweep attack, she will continue to... Oh yeah, I've seen that numerous times. This is a glitch you'll definitely see in just casually playing the game. She will continue to finish her attack without any of the typical explosions seen upon defeating various bosses and mid-bosses. Once the sweep is finished, the explosion will be seen as she flees the background. Or the battleground. This was also present in the SNES original. Yeah, that's a glitch you'll definitely see just from casual gameplay. Some of these other glitches you definitely have to go out of your way to find, but that one, yeah, that's happened to me a few times. Alright, we have a few unused rooms. Room 70, Room 74, Room 197, and a debug room, Room 747. Which, according to this video we'll see in a second, I think a lot of these are just test rooms. There are at least 4 unused rooms in this game. This room consists of nothing but some garbage data and water. It has no background, and the music that plays is a track used in Gourmet Race. Stage 1. The room's ID is between Trial Room Number 2 of Dynablade and the first level of Gourmet Race. A leftover of Kirby Super Star decorations got changed, but the general layout is mostly the same as before. It was supposed to act as an ending sequence to the Great Cave Offensive, just like it does in the original game, but Ultra uses a cutscene to accomplish this. This room has no background, unlike the original game, but the music that plays there didn't get changed. Judging by the room's ID, it's placed right before the intro room in the Great Cave Offensive, so most likely like it's stated there in the original, instead of a cutscene, it would just be normal gameplay of Kirby exiting the cave, while in the remake it was replaced with said cutscene, so likely it was going to be like that originally before the idea of the cutscene came in. Alright, this room, just like the previous ones, is a leftover of the original game. It actually has a background this time. Woo. But no music. In the original game, this room acts as a cutscene in Revenge of Meta Knight, when Kirby becomes a wheelie rider. But this game uses a cutscene to accomplish this. Judging by the room's ID, it's placed right after the Meta Knight battle and before the Halberd escape sequence. These 2 rooms might have been used before the cutscenes were made. Alright, and finally, Debug Room 547. This room is created most likely to test various terrains Kirby can encounter within the game, including sloped tiles, switched platforms, and bomb blocks, and water currents. And you probably guessed it, this room has no background, and the music that plays here is a track used in Spring Breeze, Stage 1. It also is worth noting that this room is the last room in the game, judging by its ID, and for some reason all 3 tutorial rooms are placed right before it, with the IDs of 544, 545, and 546 respectively. The doors are fully functional. If Kirby enters the first door near the starting point, he exits from another one in a slope area. If Kirby enters the second door, he exits from nothing in an area with transparent star blocks. If Kirby enters the third door, he exits from another one near a water current room. All doors near these areas, including the one on the top right, will lead Kirby back to the starting point if entered. The cannon is actually fake. It doesn't take you anywhere. Instead, it just self-destructs. Probably to test out that self-destruct sequence that does happen with some of the cannons in-game. These types of cannons are seen in some areas in the retail game. Alright. And let's see this little video over here. Alright, that looks like an early area of Stage 1 of Dynablade. Also, that Sir Kibble's cutter blade kind of went in a weird direction. Alright, this is clearly a very unfinished room. I noticed how some of the UI elements on the bottom screen aren't present here, like the score or the amount of lives Kirby has. Likely that graphic wasn't done yet for this mode. And Kirby's icon is also a little off-center, too, with his name. I mean, though the segment where you can have your partner is still there. Alright, leftovers from Kirby Super Star. The original on the SNES. Which I never played that far in the original Superstar, so probably should change that someday. But otherwise. Because I've always had the remake. No point in playing the original when we got the remake, right? Most of the time. Alright, seems like a nearly bottomless pit to the bottom of the cave. Well, it just kills you, apparently. So I guess that obviously was never finished, since, again, it was later replaced with the cutscenes. Another leftover cutscene from the original. Though you can see the UI elements on the bottom screen are more complete now. And that's likely a bottomless pit. Looks like Kirby learned from the last time. He doesn't want to fall down, and he's going to do it again. Okay. Hey, no bottomless pit this time. And I guess this is supposed to be for the cutscene with Meta Knight, Bandana D, or the Sailor Waddle D, whatever. The Meta Knight's and that bird captain guy. Captain Vol, I believe his name is. Heh. Got hit by the fire. And we can see the UI elements are closer to the final version here. And now we have definitely a debug room. Mostly these rooms are used for testing out certain objects in a game. We'll go over this in a later video, because I've seen something like this in both unused content in Mega Man X4 and on content in Mega Man 8. But those two are discussion for another day. It's like, since debug, mostly for platforming games, you don't really see this in other games like in RPGs. Though you'll see different types of testing rooms, but this is mostly for platformers. Alright, those are clearly meant to test out slopes. Alright, that's clearly a door testing for, you know, how the door works and where they want to place certain doors. Alright, that looks like maybe where they could place those star blocks. So they can test that. Like, they have it in the background, as you can see. But it's probably just as a little template so they know where they want to put it, is my guess. These test rooms are quite fascinating, in my opinion. Alright, that's clearly to test our water currents. But goddamn, look how much it pushes Kirby. In the final game, you should be able to push through most of those, but here it just forces you right down. Alright, this one's almost done. Just might as well skip a little bit. Alright, the fire ability clearly has all of its movesets, but probably not all the abilities were done being developed at this point in development. I mean, fire is one of Kirby's basic abilities, so it makes sense this one would be more complete, compared to, say, the suplex ability, or the copy ability. Alright, enough of that. Moving on, some more unused room features and level features. Green Green's room number 1. In the first stage of Spring Breeze, Green Greens, there is an entrance coded, labeled pink in the screenshot. Nearby, a warp star that can't be entered in normal play, though through hacking you can enter it. And here's what that looks like. And I guess if you were to try to enter the warp star, it won't load properly. It could crash the game and or put you in a bottomless area or something. And this little pink thing is likely why this little image is called pink. I thought it's just a code name. Alright, the entrance leads to the room, alright, it leads here, that you normally get by riding on said warp star. The developers most likely put it there for testing purposes before the warp star sprite was finished, even judging by the room's ID 1. It's safe to say that this is the first level made for the game. No shit, of course it's the first level made for the game, it's the first level in said game. Whatever. Excuse my language. This entrance is also present in the Men Nightmare Ultra version, which serves the exact same purpose. And here's a closer look at this first room. Normally where you fight the first Poppy Bro Sr. Holobird Stage 6. After Kirby destroys the Holobird's left wing and flies right back into the ship, he lands in a room where he has to enter a giant hole in the wall behind to progress. What a weird sentence, whatever. And here's a closer look at it. It seems like these over here are hitboxes for the door, so I guess if you try to enter from the purple area, it's not going to work, but from the green area, you'll be able to enter just fine. Probably why that's there. The stuff you wouldn't normally see in normal gameplay. There are 9 entrances, but only the first 2 rows from below can be entered, marked green. The highest row is intentionally set to not be enterable, like I just mentioned, labeled or marked pink. That's more of a purple, but whatever. At least to me, I think it is. More of a magenta. As it probably would be weird seeing Kirby enter a wall. Entrances marked pink warp Kirby to the exact same location as the enterable ones, if entered. Said entrances are also present in the Men Nightmare Ultra version, which serves the same exact purpose. Alright, each tutorial room, except for the one in the Great Cave Offensive, the tutorial there takes place in a cave. Have a trigger, marked pink in the cutscene, or in the screenshot, and change the tile it's on the one of the unseen ceiling tiles mentioned in the section below, for some odd reason. Because the trigger never actually triggers, you can't see both the trigger and an unseen tile in action. The tutorial rooms are located in the true arena. Alright, and here's a closer look at that. And maybe there was initially going to be a tutorial room for the true arena as well, but you've played the game so much at that point, because that's literally the last mode of the game. So I guess the devs thought, what's the point of having a tutorial for a boss rush, you know? Especially when you already did one beforehand. They'll note that this image has a bunch of Kirbys in the audience, which isn't in the final game, and this weird pink square that they mentioned before. Alright, unused tile level tiles. All tile sets. Every single tile set in the game has at least one dummy tile, which almost always acts randomly. One time it can spawn wind effects, other times it can act as another tile, or just be a decoration. It doesn't have a specific graphic either. It grabs random pieces from the tile set's tiles, and puts them together. Alright, and here's a closer look at the tutorial room once again, only without that pink square there. And here's a closer look at the tile sets. Which is kind of hard to tell what this could have been used for, other than, well, actually, that's a stupid statement. It's obviously was going to be used for, like, maybe this upward area, as you can see. Alright, all tutorial rooms except for the one in the Great Cave Offensive have unseen tiles at the top, because the camera is locked in place. So you can't normally see those under normal gameplay. I see. Alright. Is it possible to see them normally? There are a whole 12 tiles that go unseen because of this, as you can see there. Alright, the halberd. For some reason, most of not all tiles used for the halberd, including the version in Milky Way Wishes, which is the Mackay planet, but whatever, those tiles are reused and recolored, have weird unused tiles. Not only do they look weird, they have many duplicates of each other, spread all over the tile sets, and here's a closer look at that. Varying colors, too, depending on which mode you're playing. And here's a closer look at this weird tile. Alright, Two Woods Arena. Same thing here. Almost every battle against Twin Woods uses tile sets that have many duplicates of this one tile, which consists of just 9 small white crosses. Black backgrounds added for visibility. Actual tile background colors is transparent, and here's a closer look at this weird tile, which just, yeah, makes sense that this one unused. Like, where would this be placed in specifically for the Twin Woods fight? Seems a little confusing. Maybe there is initially going to have a bit more color, I don't know. Revenge of Mennonite's Island Cave. And here, there is an unused weird yellow tile in the tile set that has many duplicates of itself as well. Kind of looks almost like a flower pattern in a way. It's very pixelated. Like hella pixelated, I should say. But it almost looks like a flower pattern in some way. Alright, Fatty Whale Arena. And here is an unused tile that only exists in Meta Nightmare Ultra's version of the Fatty Whale boss room in the Great Cave Offensive, specifically. Not in Milky Way Wishes. And these almost look like slight star-ish patterns or snowflake-ish patterns. Really makes me wonder how that would have been used. Alright, Mark's the Soul Arena. The tile set used in the secret final boss arena has some unfitting tiles, including wind tiles and water tiles. This time, the developers didn't make graphics for them. There are many tiles like this on other tile sets. Alright, Debug Room. Even though the tile set for the Debug Room is unique, it actually has a lot of unused tiles too. So unsurprisingly, makes me wonder where that leads. The pictures on the left show what the unused tile sets are, and the picture on the right shows what tiles are actually used in the Debug Room. And here's a closer look at that we saw in that YouTube video. This almost looks like something I've seen in a physics class once, weirdly enough. But whatever. And here's the full debug room that we saw in the video beforehand. Again, the practicing slopes, we have Kirby with his finished sprite. Though his sprite does look a tiny bit different than how it does in the final version, so I guess it's not finished quite yet. The test doors, we have a button that's fully modeled, but the doors aren't fully modeled, which is interesting. One of those test bomb blocks. We got the test cannon, we have tested water and the water currents. Test star blocks that are in the background, a lot of other stuff. Alright, unused audio. Alright, this code I'm not going to say. Sequence 102 in this code, titled This Code, is an unfinished version of the game's intro cutscene. It lacks some instrument channels and the lead instrument, but the supporting instrument and percussion are mapped out. Jinga is what its code name is usually used within file names for music that is tied to Milky Way Wishes cutscenes, based on its Japanese name. Dinga ni Naiga, or Nagai? Whoa. While OP stands for opening. Makes sense. They use that for later Kirby games, as we've seen in Return to Dreamland. This file may have been something entirely different earlier in development, based on this file name. Alright, and let's hear it. It's about a few seconds long. Right? It's playing again. Meant to stop it. Alright, now we're on to regional differences. Just like in other Kirby games that we've talked about so far, we have regional differences mostly in the title screen. Alright, and here's what the Japanese version of the title screen looks like, with the different kanjis all around. Alright, here's the American version. I notice how the Japanese version has a little R symbol instead of later versions having the TM or trademark symbol. Alright, here's the European version. And finally, the Korean version, with a little Korean language down here. That the other versions don't have. Alright, the press start text has a translation into katakana, whatever that means, above it. It was removed outside of Japan. I guess that's a certain type of Japanese kanji or something, I'm not entirely sure. For those of you who might be well-versed in Japanese, please let me know in the comments. The European version, curiously not retitled Kirby's Fun Pack Ultra. Interesting. Changes the copyright date from 1996 to 2008 to 1996 to 2009, which applies to the sub-games. Kirby Super Star Ultra did come out in 2008, so maybe for the European version, that came out in like early 2009. Came out in 2008 for every other region, though. Alright, food. Like Kirby Superstar, the difference in the food items between the Japanese and the international versions are retained in this game. And going back to this for a second, especially before coming nowadays, at the time of making this video, we experienced games being released worldwide. And I want to say that's been a thing, well, specifically for the Kirby games. I want to say that's been a thing up until Kirby Star Allies released, where those games, no matter which version, was kind of released around the same time frame. But back then, like the Japanese would obviously get the games first, but then America would get it maybe a few days or sometimes months later. And then Europe and Korea and other eastern parts of the world would have to wait much longer than either Japan or the Americas. So that's just a little fun fact if you didn't already know. Like other Nintendo franchises specifically, like Pokemon or Mario, have similar things too. But anyways, Dive Bomb Glitch. In the Japanese version is possible. Yes, we've done that, and I can put this video in the link description. You know what? We can even see this video real fast. Right over here. A little glitch using the wing ability. Kirby burned himself, and he went right through the platform. That's a little weird. Though, for speedrunning, I feel like that would be pretty useful. But anyways, in the Japanese version, it's possible to perform a glitch that lets you fly upward or downward at tremendous speed. After doing a dive bomb and canceling when near an object, that puts you in a large amount of hits done. Like lava blocks. This glitch does not work in the international version, so it's only a Japanese thing. As it says right over here. More info on this glitch can be found there. Alright, no need to put that in the link in the description. The Great Cave offensive. Still don't know why it's so offensive. The international versions add a kibble blade, or Sir Kibble, to the room where you can find the bandana and Season's heart treasures. Since the cutter ability is required to collect the latter, this addition significantly cuts down the backtracking required for the player if the player enters the room without the ability. So I guess the Japanese players have to backtrack, and for English and for every other version, they get to just have the cutter ability. That seems unfair to Japanese players, even for that little instance, but whatevs. A Revenge of Meta Knight. America. My flying fortress, the Halberd, will now rule over all of Dreamland, while in the European version it says our flying fortress, likely referencing the other members of the Meta Knight crew, the Meta Knights, Waddle Dee, and Captain Vol. The Halberd will now rule over all of Dreamland. One of Captain Vol's lines in Chapter 2 was slightly changed in the European version, making him seem less egotistical. Since Japanese is a pro-drop language, Both lines are valid translations for the original script, though the American version is closer to the original Superstar translation. I'll conquer Dreamland with the halberd. Had to use his voice. Revenge of the King. In the Japanese version, the last two stages have altered names. In the Japanese version, we have Stage 4, the sky over Mount DDD, while in the international version, Stage 4, Mount DDD Sky. I think that's a little better. It really condenses, the title just a bit more and tells you, DDD Skies, like during Spring Breeze. And in the last stage, Revenge of DDD, while final stage, The Revenge. Definitely just more short and sweet, if you will. I think they just shortened it a little bit. For that, they had to shorten it a little bit to make it more clear and concise. Alright, Meta Knight Mayor Ultra. In the Japanese version, Meta Knight can use his abilities in save rooms. His abilities are disabled in save rooms in all other versions. I never noticed that, actually, because, I never really bothered to use his attacks in the save rooms, so I didn't know they were disabled, actually. Interesting. Alright, Samurai Kirby. In the South Korean version, various changes are made to remove references to Japanese culture. I guess that would be considered racist for Korean people, so that's why they removed it. This is owed to the fact that the Korean peninsula was occupied by the Japanese Empire from 1910 to 1945, with the colonial-era policies of cultural erasure resulting in lasting anti-Japanese sentiments in Korean society, and a nearly 60-year ban on Japanese culture imports, until that ban was lifted, hence why they get Japanese-based games like Kirby. Most parts of the ban were lifted by 2004, but some remain in place. Some of the changes made include the following. The different sprites in the international version for Samurai Kirby, where they'll have Japanese-based accessories like Kirby over here, having this little ponytail. The Waddle Doo will have this little Japanese-style hat, and the veils, I guess, are in the back of the hat, so I'm not entirely sure what that is. The Wheelie will have this little, I like to call it the hobo sack, or the hobo stick. That's what I like to call it. And the little Japanese hat. Chef Kawasaki with a little Japanese kanji on his apron, as well as Japanese robes, and a Japanese-style hat, instead of a chef's hat. King DDD will have this little Japanese-style robe as well as, again, that Japanese ponytail. I'm blanking over here. And finally, Meta Knight with more scars among his mask, without his eyes, Japanese-style flip-flops, Japanese-style katana and sheath, and Japanese-style ponytail again. Or bun, it looks more like than a ponytail. But now in the South Korean versions, it's just Kirby with a sword here and looks really angry. Just a Wild Dude with a stick, it looks like, though. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be a sword as well. Just a plain old wheelie. Chef Kawasaki with nothing special. Just King DDD with nothing special. I guess he's holding a katana, but that's about it. Imagine King DDD with a sword outside of this version. That sounds kind of cursed, actually, not gonna lie. And I know that's a possible thing in Smash Bros. Thanks to certain items, but still. He mostly uses a hammer, let him keep his hammer. And Meta Knight with a katana. That's it. Nothing changed about his sprite. I guess besides his eyes. Our Kirby and his opponents are redesigned to use their base designs rather than the feudal Japan or Japanese get-ups, seeing it in all other regions. This also extends to the close-ups that appear at the start of each match. Since Kirby, Wheelie, and King DDD's outfits are not visible in the original sprites, they go unchanged, and which is why they don't show up over here. The skulls that appear on screen to show the results of a match are directly modified to replace the Japanese text with a Korean translation, rather than using subtitles like other international versions. And here is a close-up of the international version for Meta Knight. Here's a close-up for Chef Kawasaki, with his little Japanese-style hat on. And here's one for Waddle Doo, with his Japanese-style hat on. And then we have the South Korean versions, without all the Japanese-style accessories. Here's one for Chef Kawasaki. They could have at least tried to make his little chef hat a little more visible here. Maybe they could have. Maybe it was just too small, as we see in the sprite over here, so that's probably why we can't see it. They could have made it a bit more visible, I think. And finally for Meta Knight, without his eyes again. Guess to make him look a little more mysterious. And finally, internal project names. According to the game's sound archive, the project's internal name is SDX Plus in quotations. Various songs are also headed with quotations DDX. Both names derive from proposed subtitles from the remake and this Japanese thing here. Japanese kanjis over here. Not entirely sure what that says. Super Deluxe Plus and Super Deluxe Deluxe. The original Kirby Superstar was Kirby Super Deluxe in Japanese, and the remake's final Japanese name is Kirby's Ultra Super Deluxe. Alright, and that's just the name of it in Japan, while our name is Superstar and Superstar Ultra, respectively, which I prefer those names personally. But with that being said, that's all the unused content I could find for Kirby Superstar Ultra, so if you enjoyed this and you want to see more, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And consider answering the question today, as usual, of all the unused content we went over, what would you have liked to see in the final game and why? For me, I guess some of the things we saw in the test rooms, like maybe some of these slopes could have been, well, obviously they would be modeled differently, but maybe something like that could have been used in the final game more often, let's say. Alright, so, with that being said, thank you all for watching, hope you learned something new today, and have a berrific day.